interesting actually to see something new about that, because normally I function very analytical too, and I'm a good learner. I always kind of rely on my mind because to a certain point it brought me pretty far in life. Like it helps, you know. It's a good mind. um but that's a bit of another issue. But what I can tell you just from my experience in my relationship, like I'm married too, since I'm together with my husband since 17 years and going through different phases and stuff. Mm, but what I noticed in my relationship with him and also with other people is one very simple thing, that the more peaceful I feel and the more quiet I am, the kinder and nicer I am with other people. Like that's a very simple thing, but I really noticed it. Like I noticed it when I'm walking around in the world, when I'm pissed off and annoyed. I really don't treat other people nicely. Like it sounds very simple, but I really noticed this during this year. And when I feel at peace and when I feel safe in life and in the world, and like I'm supported, I'm very giving and kind and have more humor. So I think that is one big thing that shouldn't be underestimated. Like even if it sounds selfish to first take care of yourself and watch your own thing, it leads automatically to a way kinder and more peaceful behavior in the world. And I think you can, even when you think about wars and religious troubles going on and all this stuff, to me it seems pretty obvious that it all comes from a very busy mind and from a state of fear and wanting to be right, you know, like from a very mm, tense state. I think nobody would go to war or be racist or discriminating when he feels really safe and peaceful and loved. So I guess this would be one thing I that would come up to me for to that question. And one thing I noticed is that you said something about other people affecting the way you're thinking. And that would be another interesting topic to just talk a bit more about, what you see there and how much you can see that it's basically still your own thinking, even if it feels like the behavior of the other one is triggering it. So I had a few talks during the last year with Hannah about this, about some issues we had that would occasionally come up in my relationship, and I saw a lot of stuff change through this. So yeah, I think that would be what comes up for me. I don't know if this makes sense to you or if it
Yeah,
resonates.
and that's been mentioned before, but it's still it's still like a one person approach. I don't know. It's like I'm just looking for something that deals with people who are like trying to collaborate with their marriage, or I don't know. Like how are you
What do you
supposed
mean
to
collaborate? I don't understand.
Like, what about this? Yeah, and that was a wonderful answer, Paula V. And I want to hear from Tom, and I want to say hi to Linda. Can you open up? Because I've only seen you on the Facebook group, Linda. I'd love to meet you in person, so to speak. It feels like it's in person when we're on a screen. I don't know if she might have left. Oh, there you
Ah,
are.
hey,
Hi.
nice to
Great to
see you.
meet you. Where are you? You're muted. Are you? I think you're in California.
No,
Paula
no,
V.
I'm in Northern Ireland in the UK.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
great. So
So
what time
yeah,
is it there? It's 6 hours or five now? I think.
so it's just gone like 12 minutes past 7, so I'm late to join. So I'm just finishing off a few work stuff. So nice to meet everyone.
Oh, well, I'm so glad you could join us. Yeah. Yeah. Do you know Linda, Tom?
Nope,
Or you're just waving hi?
just
Yeah.
meeting. I'm just saying hi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Your
Right. And
face is
Tom's in
very familiar,
Oregon and
Oh, thank you.
uh,
Yeah.
especially over this last couple of weeks. I've been joining a lot more of the this conversation. So Tom, I think you've been at all of them, and
Oh, yeah. I tend to speak up when I get into the webinars because like nobody's raising their hand. Okay, I love talking to people. That's how I get to meet Lori.
so
um,
I want to catch Linda up. So the question is, how do you deal with your partner you're living with, you're married, you're You know, you'd been at it several years, and some big things. I might embellish a little bit here, Libby, because I think it'll help the conversation. And you know, like some big project comes up. Like, I'll give you an example, and this is not Libby. I told Libby this about another client of mine, and I got her permission. In fact, um, she herself is a therapist, and I said, you know, maybe it would help, Libby, if you have a session with um, this person who's also a therapist who lives with a man. She calls him a hoarder. He doesn't hoard in the house. I don't know, maybe he does, but you know, that doesn't seem to be the, and it's not even a problem. It just came up in conversation about something else. He hoards motorcycles. I told Libby from memory, I think she said 25. I think
Wow.
25 motorcycles. He's got a full-time job in a hospital. And he's got, Tom, wait till you hear. I'm glad you're all sitting down. 500. 500 motorcycles. So he spends, this is obviously more than a hobby. A lot of it is on their property. I have to go see them. I have to go visit them. You know, it's, yeah, I said, will you take a picture? She said, no, I'm too embarrassed. I can't take a picture. But you know what overcame it for her? I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to wait until the end of this conversation because it's so huge and it's also so obvious. It's like, you know, when you're looking for your glasses and where did I put my glasses? You know, they're right there on your head and you're looking all over for it. It's so obvious, the answer. And Sid says it in so many ways, but it's beautiful. So I want to hear from Tom. What do you
Sure.
do when you're up against something really big?
Well, I want to first go back a little bit, Libby, to what you originally said, because I don't know how, if you've been in this conversation for a while, but I think it's definitely something that I hear a lot in Facebook groups and groups that I'm in around SID and around the principles is there are a lot of ideas that people say are the principles, but they're really just their own insights and interpretations. And so they're never things to take on as a belief. So if something doesn't seem right to you, like, we don't want you to take that on as a belief. Now, the important thing for me, and what I heard in your question, Sid always said, if you've listened to his tapes, he always says something strange. He says, don't listen to my words. Don't try to understand what I'm saying. And then he talks, you know, very simply about mind, consciousness, and thought, creating our experience. And that's all that the principles are. Anything anyone else says, including me, or that's sort of like an add-on. And the key to what Sid said, what I heard, he said, don't try to understand what I'm saying. And what you're looking for is a feeling. You're looking for a feeling in yourself that feels nice. Sometimes he uses the word beautiful. You're looking for a beautiful, nice, ordinary, nice feeling in yourself. And when you have that feeling, your understanding will just, it'll just come. So that takes so much pressure off. Like, I can't totally grasp mind, consciousness, and thought, but anymore, I don't even, a lot of times, even have to think about it, because he pointed me to something that isn't, and I saw that this nice feeling, and that is not even defined. A lot of people struggle over, I can't find a nice feeling. What is a nice feeling? It's, you know, you just find it. And it's so ordinary sometimes. So that is, to me, what the principles are pointing to, that we have this capacity to live a life of happiness, joy, peace, whatever word you want, and that it's natural, it's in us. And if we look inside, we'll find it. I guarantee if you look inside, you will start seeing it, and it will change your life. It will change everything. And it'll change the way you see your relationship, and it'll transcend any idea, at least I think, whether it's self selfish or communal. I'm a very community-minded person. I believe in, to live on this earth, we have to get along, we have to cooperate. So it'll go beyond all those ideas, but that's the gold in this. And the thing is, like, we feel these things that he's talking, we feel them all day long. We just, Sid said, the other thing Sid said was, when he had his experience, he said, everyone has perfect mental health, but they just can't see it. And so what I see in that is everyone has access to these beautiful, ordinary human feelings of happiness and love, and they're in us, but we just, so often we just can't see them. But once we start seeing them, you know, they just, like, your mind gets oriented to them and you live in them and you care about other people more than, and you get along with other people much better by living in that feeling. So that's, you know, I know that's a lot, but that's what I see.
But can I just ask a follow-up? So like what Lori described, this guy who has 500 motorcycle. I mean, to me, that's like kind of an addiction. Like he has 500 motorcycles, or somebody who has addiction to gambling, somebody has addiction to alcohol, or, you know, my husband has his stuff, you know, his you know, mannerisms and stuff. So how do you still, like, might have that feeling, but when you're so tied to someone, like I've been married almost 30 years. Like, how do you reconcile that? Yeah, it's just, and that's the part, like, yeah, I can feel great and do my own thing and, you know, read Sid and all this stuff, but you still have somebody else like that's so influencing you. I don't know.
Yeah, I hear
That's
you.
the key right there.
Yeah.
But you go, Tom, and then I'll follow up.
No, I'll just say I hear, I definitely hear what you're saying, because even for me, like, I can't, you know, I don't always see it. I for sure don't always see it. It's just that in addition to what I was saying about all these good feelings, you get access to your own intelligence, your own wisdom. And when you look at something like what you're talking about, when you look at it as a big picture, as something that has been going on and it's like an ongoing thing in your life, those things are almost impossible to deal with. But in the moment, this is anyone, it does, you know, you're talking to someone in a moment. That whole thing with the 30 years is true, but also it's not always relevant in the moment. So when you're in a good space, your wisdom tells you what to do in the moment. And that's all you ever need. You only need to know what to do in the moment. And it will give it to you and you'll start seeing it. And it will, your experience will change when, you know, as you start seeing that. So that's, you know, it's there for you in the moment. It's like so amazing. So I'll let Lori.
Yeah, great job, Tom. Yeah, both of you, Pallavi and Tom.
Yeah.
So great having guys on either side of me, and we're triple teaming here. And, you know, I just want to add a few things, which is two words that you brought up that, you know, rang for me, Libby. First of all, was influenced by. I think that's what Sid meant when he talked about the impersonal. In the impersonal realm, we don't get influenced by external situations, circumstances, events. When you're deep inside yourself, that out there doesn't influence us or affect us. And we have to live in the real world. So, you know, if I was living with a man, and this is definitely not Libby's story, far from it. Libby's husband adores her. But if I was living with a man who was physically abusive, I would have to leave that situation for my own safety, right? But all the other strange things people could do, does it really have to influence my world? You know, I'm sure when I'm out of sorts, it'll look like an influence. It'll look like I'm out of sorts because of what he's doing or what she's doing. Of course, you know, I think Pallavi and Tom would say the same thing. And when you really see this inside out nature of life, and you really see in some moments of clarity that you're good no matter what. Like Dr. Pettit in The Doctor's Pettits talked about never broken, nothing lacking. That's so true. And that's true for how other people are who share a world with us. So depending on somebody else to do things a certain way, to not, to take care of the 50 motorcycles. See, I cannot spit out 500. I just can't wrap my mind around it. Right?
No, I'd be out of there.
I have to go visit her, Libby. Maybe you and I will go together.
Yeah. Then I'll think, oh, my life's great.
I gotta see this. I really have to see this for, when I pointed out to Libby or to somebody, that sweet, with Jody was on the call with us. Jody came to early mystery schools back in September, and she told the story. So I'm going to see if I can figure out which one it was and send it to you. It was so sweet. That story is in The Secret of Love, about how she's sitting at a restaurant with her husband and food is flying all over the place, and the waiter comes over and says, "I'm sorry, you're going to have to leave. We can't serve you. Your husband is inebriated." Well, her husband was not inebriated. He had early onset Alzheimer's. And it was the absolute sweetest thing that happened. They went to pay the bill and he said, "Oh no, it's been taken care of." And she thought, well, maybe because we're being thrown out, they're not charging us. They get in the car. She gets him in the car. And this young couple comes up to them. She found out that's the couple who paid their bill. Young couple. The woman sticks her head in the driver's side and says, "We just hope, we just want to have the relationship that you have."
Wow.
Yeah. I know. I mean, it chokes me up every time I go there in my mind to that story. It just is such a. So, you want to know what the one word is? That this, my client said that helped her. She said she realized she loved him.
Oh.
Love conquers all. Yeah, he's a screwball in many ways, but she says
Wow.
he's so wonderful in so many other ways.
Yeah.
When he's not riding 500 motorcycles.
It's the guy with the 500 motorcycles and 8 cars. And their property is they have to leave their property because the state wants to use that land to build a school.
Oh, no.
How interesting is that going to be? What's he going to do with 500 motorcycles? And it remains to be seen. She's not getting involved. It's his baby. I wish Karen was on. You know how Karen's saying is, "Not my circus, not my monkey."
Yeah. I also feel sometimes that there's sometimes a misunderstanding, like as if the principals would tell you to not do anything about stuff, but to me it's more like, no, what the principals are explaining to me how my mind works, and I kind of understand that I'm better at solving problems or dealing with relationship stuff when I'm in a better state of mind. So and the nice feeling is not just about hanging out in the nice feeling. It's really, like Tom said, that wisdom comes up there and ideas and like really helpful stuff. So that's just what came, because I often feel like I'm in this group for chronic pain people, and when they hear you don't have to do anything about their pain, they sometimes think they have to sit there and just do nothing, and they ask me like, "Yeah, but can I take a hot bath if it helps?" And I'm going, "Oh my God, of course you can." Like there's this misunderstanding of just doing nothing anymore.
Don't
and I
take
don't
it
think
literally. Yeah, that's funny, right? Sit in the corner and don't move, don't do anything.
No, but it's understandable. I mean, we have all these ideas and approaches, and it can be very confusing, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm so glad you brought that up about, yeah, you might come up with a really great idea for your thing, the thing that gets your goat. And she may come up with a really great idea about what to do. I mean, that should be like a museum. It reminded me of being at a, what is that called? Like a show at the Guggenheim. And you know how the Guggenheim Museum, Linda may not know, she's in the UK and I don't
Me
know.
neither.
Oh, you don't either in Germany, right? Well, the Guggenheim Museum is a well-known museum in New York City. And it's built on a spiral.
Yeah.
I don't remember the name of the architect, but
It
famous
was
architect,
it was
you know that.
Frank Lloyd Wright. It's a beautiful building. I've been there like
Oh,
3 or 4 times.
Who built it?
Frank Lloyd Wright, I believe.
Oh, that is a Frank Lloyd Wright
I
building?
think so.
Thank you.
I
I mean,
think
it would
so.
make sense.
I'm
That's
not sure,
something
but I
he
think
would-
so.
It's a spiral.
Yeah.
And going through the museum, you literally walk up a spiral. They had a thing on motorcycles. So as you walk up, there are these sculptures. I mean, they were beautiful, I'm sure, gorgeous. They're not clunker motorcycles that need parts and need fixing. But, we all have our idiosyncrasies. The Department of Health didn't come. If the Department of Health came, then you have to clean it up. Right?
Yeah.
What, Libby?
I just Googled it, just confirming it is Frank Lloyd Wright.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Libby.
I was also going to say as a joke, maybe they'll build a motorcycle school on that property, and then everyone can win. He was going to lose the yard because of the school.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be a motorcycle school.
Yeah.
And then
Well,
Or a
who
museum.
knows? Who knows? It's going to be really interesting to see how this turns out. Let me tell you. I'll report when I know. But the point about where we started about this, how it's easy to interpret Sid saying it's all about self-care, but self-care is a doing, brushing your teeth and exercising and all that. Self-care, the way we think of self-care is a doing. What I hear Sid saying is get out of the personal. Go to the impersonal. The impersonal is infinite. That's our spiritual nature. That's the infinite, whatever word you want to call it, infinite wisdom, where creativity comes. So I think when we're in that impersonal place where, we're not seeing something as a problem, we're seeing it as, I don't know, or we're not even seeing it, or we're seeing it as interesting or curious. What would, cause somebody to want to collect 500 motorcycles? And who is he in touch with to even have people wanting to give him their motorcycle? 500 people. Unless 5 people each gave him 100 motorcycles. I mean, I don't know. Anything's possible, right? I would just get so curious about that. And easier for me, I'm not married to the guy. But if you're married to the person, you've got to really get into your curiosity mode. I think, in order to get through some challenges. And even seeing it as a challenge is like taking it personally, as opposed to it just is. That's another thing Sid said. Look at what is, the isness of life, not the personal isness, the impersonal isness. That's how I see it anyway. What do you think, Linda? You can just listen. You don't have to say anything. We're just
having her
happy to
dinner.
have you join us. And you're on mute, so you can stay on mute. Yeah. Yeah. Just nice having you with us. Yeah. So what else should we say
Yeah,
about
what you just said, Laurie, there's this one quote from Sid that always, like, I think I can't really understand it or really touch it, but there's a glimpse of something in there that really touches me. And there's one talk where he says, like, the right use of the mind is to be quiet, still and silent, and to just observe what is. But to observe what is not from the mind, but from beyond the mind. Like, and there's something so beautiful that touches my heart in that of sometimes I feel like almost as if I'm being arrogant in putting my opinion on everything, like my judgment, my idea of how it should be. And there's this quiet beauty in I don't know, like sometimes I imagine like I'm just melting into the background of life, or I'm being like a flower or something, just being there without having, having to say something about everything. Yeah. And it's not like, I can hang out in that state all the time, but there's such a beautiful sense to that of just allowing life as it is, even if it seems totally crazy sometimes from my mind, from my point of view. And I don't know, I'm just curious of looking more into that direction because it feels very sweet to me.
That's beautiful. I love that. Do you guys get this sensation? You're going to think I'm on drugs if I tell you this. I get this sensation, like, especially when I'm out in nature, where I like go in and out. Like, in the personal, when, I don't know, maybe that's more impersonal too, but it almost seems like I'm in the personal when I'm enjoying watching dads teach their youngster how to ride a bike. They got the training wheels on, and I just get the biggest kick out of that. And but then the ouch is like when I'm more like you were describing, Pallavi, when I'm just like in awe, like there's no people to check out. I just see nature in front of me, and like, who came up with this design? What came up with this design? When I go there, I am just in a state of awe. So that's the in and out that I feel where I'm in my person, the personal, like you were talking, Pallavi, about judging things, even my judging how cute this dad is teaching his little girl how to ride a bike, how adorable. That's still personal. But when
you're just putting a label on everything, right?
What's that?
It's just like you're putting a label on everything, even if
putting
it's a good label on it, right?
Cute, sad, awful. Right. We're putting an adjective on life as opposed to just drinking it in. It's all neutral. It's just like, wow. How did this all happen? How does, my husband, if I was this woman, how does my husband get into collecting 500 motorcycles? That's got to be, something for the world's book of records, right? That may be the largest collection of motorcycles in the world, no matter how decrepit they are. I don't know. It's just, wow. I'll shut up. Enough of me. You were going to say something, Tom.
Let's see. Well, one of the things that I have been really reflecting on the past couple of weeks is this whole thing around time. And Sid would also talk about, like a lot of other spiritual teachers, he would talk about now in the present moment. And that has been so much in the popular culture that it's almost become like a cliche that you can just kind of skip over, right? Yeah. Oh yeah, I know. It's better to be in the present now, but also not really seeing it. And so I have been feeling more and more like recently about seeing that, like in the present moment, I can only, like the past is really gone in a way that I haven't seen before. And I can see that I only have access to my memories about it. That's where it lives. It lives in my memories, which is thought, right? And then with the future, I can see that it's totally, because the future hasn't happened, like that is totally my imagination. Even if I think it's likely so-and-so is going to happen. And it's just been really like nice to, it's like I said, it's one thing to believe something, even something as true as there's only the present moment, but you can believe it, but still not really see it. So I've just feel like I've seen a little bit recently about, and then when it comes to like relations with other people, like really, if they're not in your presence in the moment, you only know them through your mind. Like if they're not there, you only have your memory of them and your expectation that you're going to see them in 5 or 10 minutes. And that feels so real, but they're not actually there. And there's something about that for relationships that can help, because you realize that the problem that I've been having with someone, it's not actually happening right now. I'm remembering it and I'm expecting it to carry to the future. And for me, that's where the suffering came in. I was expecting it, that this was still going to be a problem this evening. Does that make any sense to you at all?
Absolutely. Yeah. How about the rest of you?
Yeah, it reminds me of a session I once had, and maybe that's connects to Libby's question or to the topic. It was about my relationship with my father. My parents are divorced, and we have the usual struggle going on. Nothing super intense, but I have some stories with my dad and a difficult communication. And sometimes I got caught up in it and revved up about it. And anyway, at some point last year, I took a session with Hannah to talk about it. It was about the communication between me and my dad, which was really annoying to me. And of course, I started telling her the whole story. It has always been like this, and then this happens, and blah, 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 and then always that happens. And Hannah pointed me totally to what Tom was just saying, that this is just not true right now. And as long as I'm holding on to this story, I have no possibility at all to meet my dad in that moment and to see what happens in that moment, and to have access to my wisdom in that moment, to create some kind of, or to let some kind of situation be created, or to let something new arise. And that was a point for me where I got a little glimpse of what Tom was just talking about, of it's really just made up. Like, of course, I have a relationship with my dad, but it's just in my memories, because I only remember certain parts of it. And depending on my state of mind, I remember different parts. Like in a low state of mind, I won't remember the good parts, I would just pick out all the situations where he did something to annoy me. And yeah, anyway, I just wanted to say that what Tom was saying, it's really helpful for relationships to see that. And of course, it looks very true. And you can say, oh, but I know this evening it will be the same, and blah, blah. But there's really freedom in just getting suspicious about it. You don't even have to let go of the story, or, be super clear about it. And just getting suspicious about my own story, I felt like there was room for something new to come up.
Oh, I love that. And it's so playful the way you say that, because it's so great not to take any of this seriously. That you say, I'm suspicious about this story that I have. I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a great word to put on it. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I love where this conversation went.
There was one other thing that I'd love to say, because I heard it from George and Linda Pransky, because it was so powerful and I never saw it before. And it's not even really about the principles.
Except everything is the principles.
Right. Exactly. It's not what people usually think of. Heath and Linda, they talked about the idea that they not fight, but they bicker. And they talk about how they bicker. And they've been married 40 years and they love each other so much. But they said a couple of things that they do, but one that really struck me is if they get into like a conflict or something, they try to remember that they're on the same side, they're on the same team. And sometimes they remind each other like, okay, we're having this argument, but like we're still on the same team, right? You know, and
Right.
I see that with all the conflicts I've ever had. It's like I forget that this is a loved one or a friend, and we're actually we're on the same team. And just somehow remembering that,
Yeah.
it just changes the whole dynamic,
Right.
doesn't it? I mean, anyway.
Like anything, you know, and maybe that's part of the in and out that I experience is we forget that
Yeah.
we're on the same team. We forget that it's all coming from us. We forget that we're experiencing our thinking, and then we remember, and then we forget, and then we remember. And it's in the moments of remembering that we're experiencing resiliency.
Mm-hmm.
We remember, and boom, we're back. We're back to our true spiritual nature.
I love the being on the same team thing. Like, I think it's so sweet, and it's like even with work colleagues or wherever,
Yeah.
it's so easy to go into
Oh my
competition
God.
or to start fighting. And but yeah, the moment you remember that, because it feels so much better, right? So simple in a way.
We're not competitors on opposite teams.
Yeah.
And when you're in the middle of bickering, it sure feels like that, doesn't it? Like we're out to get you to see it my way.
Yeah, you know, and I'm glad, Flavia, you mentioned that about workplaces, because I feel like that would totally transform workplaces. Like in my past, I've been involved in things where they have these programs to improve the culture of a workplace, and they're good ideas, like have parties or go out and do something fun and team building, and they're all great. But see, even there, the word team is in there. But just like remembering you're on the same team, I think that would transform a lot of things. Like, could you imagine if here in the United States, if our Congress actually
Right.
started to feel that way? It's almost like unimaginable that could even happen in this country. But you know, anyway.
Yeah, so true. You don't have to do anything. You just have to remember. Mm. So, yeah. Any other questions or things that you're noticing? I love that, Tom, you're noticing about being in the moment, that it's not just a good idea, it's the way life really is.
Yeah.
Or else we're in our memory or our imagination.
Do you guys also notice how often you have conversations in your head, like you're planning? Oh my God, my
all the
goodness.
all the time.
But it's getting so obvious right now, and I'm watching myself and I'm thinking, oh my God, what are you doing? It's not even like difficult conversations. Like, it's not only when I have a fight or, you know, anything going on. It's just like I'm and then sometimes I wonder, whom am I telling this to, you know, because I already know, otherwise I couldn't tell myself. It's just so stupid.
Oh.
And it just feels like it's so habitual to be busy in your mind all the time, you know? It's just like, doesn't know what else to do, so I'm talking about something. It's crazy.
So funny. Yeah. We're all characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I walk around in my head and I'm commentating on politics or something. You know,
It's great too, right? Telling yourself your own opinion on politics,
right?
right?
And now we'll turn it over to Tom. He has something to say on this. And it's the same thing he said yesterday, but
Yeah. Lindy, maybe you know this too about physical symptoms. Like for a long time when I went for a walk in the morning, or now I go running in the morning, I would list in my head all the things I'm doing for my health, as if I was talking to a doctor or something, like telling myself how good my diet is and what stuff I'm taking, what supplements, and how many breathing techniques I'm using. I don't know. I think maybe to reassure myself that I'm doing everything I can, but it's so funny in a way.
Yeah, I have a list. I don't know whether it's in this book, but yeah, I have books. I've got this book, and I've got this book. It feels like I'm not collecting motorbikes. I'm collecting books.
Yeah.
This book is for this list, and this book is for this list. So here's my list, Pallav. I have an actual list, and
I love it.
I'm just relating back to what you were saying, Tom, and you said it on it was when it was 3PG community. I think maybe it might have been with Erica or one of the other ones, but you know, and if I speak to Pallavi about this as well, you know, it's becoming more and more true for me that past is the past. You know, I have a lot attached to the past with like trauma and, you know, emotional trauma with my dad, and you know, one specific event involving him, and it was 6 years ago, and it's, you know, I'm so attached to that story, and because I've been trying to get you know, help with the physical symptoms, I go into the story because it's part of my past, it's part of my background, I'm always asked about it, and I've got so attached, almost as if it's my identity now. And just over this last week, I've just had that realization about the past isn't my identity, it's not part of my story. My story is right here, it's now, and what comes after now, what comes after. And that's one thing that struck me about what you said, Tom, as well, about future's imagination. It hasn't happened yet. So although those are memories from your past and you might carry them with you, they're harmless. And, you know, that was always something that I told myself for this last couple of years. You know, the past is in the past. I need to let go. You know, I need to let go, I should let go, but I don't know how. But I was trying too hard. In my head, I had that understanding of, I need to do this. It's not helping me. I'm so stuck. And this was like a washing machine going on in my head, just day in, day out. And there was no break from it. And although, you know, people kept telling me, you got to let go of the past. Well, I know that, but I don't know how. But it's not until you have that realization. It's a feeling. It's not something that someone can tell you to do or how to do it. It's a feeling. And at that time, I just had a few moments of almost smiling, like an inner smile. Just that, it really is the past. It's not part of me anymore. And also that maybe my dad behaved that way because, you know, he had his own stuff going on, or that was just the best that he could do in the moment with where he was at, or how stressed he might have been, and just to learn not to take that personal. Whereas my whole life I've taken that personal, and I've tried to maybe do things that make me feel better, or, you know, why did that happen? So I've stopped asking those questions, and actually I had a lot of blame for, you know, why things were the way they were. But I've stopped blaming now. I've kind of removed that. I had a lot of anger about it as well. And I've kind of just had that realization that's helped a lot with that side of things, that, you know, he just did the best he could. So that's been massive for me. And I don't want to jinx myself by saying this, but I almost, I just, this last probably week and a half, I've just felt a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
So I've still got my symptoms going on, but yeah, I just feel a little bit lighter. And I was going to a lady who was, you know, kind of counselor, doing tapping techniques, doing everything. And even though I know I've tried these techniques before, I've tried them before, they don't work for me. And I've always had that inner knowing of it's not going to work for me. But I had this little question mark because I wasn't warming to this person. She was quite blunt in the way maybe she put things across. And I kept telling myself, no, it's me. I'm not giving myself a chance. I've only had, you know, 4 sessions. Maybe I have this feeling of not wanting to go or not wanting to be there because I actually don't want to talk about the past. And that's what I feel uncomfortable about. But I've just decided, it was only yesterday, I just decided I don't need to go because she takes me back into the past. I don't want to be there. So, you know, revisiting that isn't helpful for me. And when you're so caught up in your head trying to figure that out, you just go round in circles. But just feeling a bit quieter about things has maybe helped me to trust that inner wisdom. So I've let go of that as well, which has been massive.
Yeah, I love
Amazing,
that.
Lindy. So cool.
Beautiful.
What?
It's so beautiful.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What you're seeing there. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
You know what really helped me with that, Linda, and I love that, you know, that people do the best they can.
Mm.
What really helped me was the second part of that, which was people do the best they can, given how it's looking to them in that moment.
Mm.
There may be moments where they behave better because they're more clear. They see things with greater clarity. But people do some really crazy stuff, like, you know, we've talked about some of that in a state of discomfort when, because they don't know, they didn't know how to access their well-being from that quiet state of mind.
Yeah, because when I look back, you know, I without a doubt, you know, my dad probably suffered from depression, anxiety, you know, so he never got help for that. And you know, the things that he did or how that manifested for us whenever we were young and right through adulthood, I still have a relationship with him, but it's a bit like the elephant in the room. It's never been talked about. And yeah, it's looking at it differently.
It's amazing how many parents have a belief, and it to them it's not a belief, it's reality, that the best thing for their children is to be raised with a lot of discipline and with an iron fist. You know, and I've even heard parents say that, and you could see, my God, they really think that they're giving their child the best by being so punitive. And it comes across as a put down, as a criticism. And the parent literally thinks that's what the child needs. Talk about, you know, and I also love the term psychological innocence. That's so innocent because they really think that's their reality. That's their personal reality. And they haven't learned how to tap into their wisdom, into infinite wisdom.
Yeah. I did an exercise just out of curiosity. So, you know, I had the same kind of work ethic, if you can call it that, as my dad. My brother had it, so I thought I should have it, and it has just been in me. And I for 18 years since I started working, I worked 75 plus hours a week for 18 years. And that was just what I did. I fell into bed, got up the next day and did it all over again. And just my body was screaming at me to stop. My head wouldn't stop. It was just in this constant conflict. And so just with my health has deteriorated, and some diagnoses have come up, and so I'm doing very little work at the moment. Over this last couple of years, it's just reduced down to maybe 10 hours a week, because that's all I can do. And even that's a struggle, and I still push through. It's I might as well be doing 75 hours. I'm still pushing through, but this week I've decided to give up work for a number of months, just to try and be with myself and be on that healing journey. But I looked at the figures, and in 18 years I have worked 70,200 hours, which is 20 years longer than the average person working a 40-hour week.
Oh.
So where's my medal for that? Whenever I look back at that, no one's going to write that on my headstone. She worked 70,000 hours, in 18 years, and it's like, what do I have to show for it? It's like, it was so unnecessary, but at the time I was only doing what I knew how to do. So on reflection, things look very different. But I didn't have that inner wisdom, because this was ruling. It was all my mind, all my thought.
Yeah. I think it's just beautiful to see that, to go back what you were describing before, like how you always thought you need to work through this stuff with your dad, or like stuff from the past, and how now in the last 1.5 weeks, just by looking in a different direction, you experienced moments of peace or more quiet or freedom, where you can already see that that the peace really comes from your state of mind, because nothing changed on the outside, nothing changed with your dad. It's just the focus changed, right? And like from my experience, this just keeps happening, like these moments keep happening, and you start to trust more in it, and at some point it just makes so much sense to just look more in that direction. And I feel I'm just becoming less interested in trying to solve something in the past, or figuring out why it happened and how it happened, because I kind of start to realize that it's just a trick for my mind. All it does, it keeps me getting caught up in that stuff, and it's just amazing to hear you describing it, how you see it.
Yeah, so I guess I use the word curious comes up quite a lot in this conversation, but I'm curious to see what happens next. Yeah. What can I see next? Not without trying, but just what comes next.
Yeah, it's exciting being there in that wonder, like, oh, I can't wait to see what I'm going to see next. That's cool.
Yeah, also learning. I do take things very personally from other people. So, so if someone's upset about something, it's like, oh, it's, I'm so sensitive about that. But it's almost not learning to look at it differently, but just again knowing that it's not to take it personally, that they're upset because of maybe something that's going on with them, or but it's just maybe directed outwardly at you, but it's not personal.
Mm.
Yeah, it's super helpful to see that. For like it spares yourself a lot of suffering, and I feel it's so helpful in daily life and in my relationship with my husband. Like when he comes home from work and is annoyed with some customers and starts snapping at me, I might just leave the room, and like 15 minutes later I go over again and bring him a tea and see if he has calmed down,
Wow.
And it's not something we have to talk about because I know what's going on and he knows what's going on, and it just gets easier to snap out of it again in my experience, and just nice.
And how nice you bring him a tea. That's being on the same team.
Yeah, right.
If someone brings me a tea, they're on my team forever.
Yeah.
Like one tea.
Yeah, but like I would get so annoyed before because like for us it's often that I work from home, like I do phone calls and emails, and I can't work so much in the shop because of my body issues too. So sometimes my husband comes in from being at work, and I might just have a cup of tea myself, and it looks like I've been doing nothing, the whole day. So he comes in and he feels like, oh, I've worked so much, and then he tries to tell me everything about it, and I would get so annoyed because I didn't feel appreciated about what I've been doing and blah blah blah. And you can make a big issue out of that, like you can really get into a fight and make a big problem. And it's so interesting when it changes and you just realize it's not true. He knows how much I'm doing. We appreciate each other. It just happens in this moment of being overwhelmed or annoyed and basically just in a low state of mind. To me, like one of the main things I learned from Sid's teachings is to become aware of moods and of state of minds, and to just not take myself or anybody else serious when they're in a low state of mind, because it just isn't worth it. Nobody means what they're saying during this moments, and it's not even worth discussing it. Like I find it really interesting and amazing that I never noticed that before, because it's kind of obvious once you look for it, right? It's weird.
And you see the result, that the result is so much better when you don't feed into it. Yeah. It's fascinating, isn't it? Wow, we have to get going, but this was so great. Yeah, wonderful that you joined us. I hope you'll come next week, Linda.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of nice just to hang out. I've always had a thing. I've been in this conversation for about 2.5, almost 3 years, and just where getting some diagnosis earlier this year and thinking it was one thing and then it's a different thing, and I really wasn't going in a good place. That's just like deteriorating, with everything physically, mentally, and so I've always had my camera off. So if I'm here and my camera's off, it's just I'm not having a good day. And this is probably the first that I've spoke out on one of these, probably Pallavi, since the retreat that we did.
Really?
Yeah.
It's very nice to hear from you and to hear what's going on.
Yeah, because there's a lot of brain fog and cognitive type things and word finding, when it comes with the symptoms, and I just don't want to speak out because I'm afraid of saying something that comes out wrong or forgetting what I'm going to say, and it just draws attention to it. So it's almost like you're under the magnifying glass. But it's actually been really nice in a small group tonight to actually be more present, have my camera on and be chatting to you guys. So thank you for that. Yeah, I'd love to
Wow.
join again.
Yeah,
You're very
it was
welcome.
great.
Yeah. Wonderful. So have a great rest of the day. What you got left of it, those of you in Europe. And hope to see you next week.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank
Okay.
you.
hopeful.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.
So nice talking.
Yeah, bye everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good to see you.